The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, are they in serious trouble when it comes to depth on the defensive line? How about the Saskatchewan Roughriders? Will QB1 Trevor Harris play Friday night in a early season Prairie Rivalry between the Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders at Mosaic? That, depth charts, injury lists, details, keys to the game, and a whole lot more. Let's bring in the man you all came to see, Chris Walby, joining us here on Game Day Winnipeg. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, everybody. How you feeling?
Feel great, man. I love the fact that we got the Prairie Rivalry going again. That's what I want to see. Both teams undefeated, although there is some speculation about the head man on Saskatchewan at that quarterback position. We'll have to talk about that. But, yeah, anytime we talk about this all the time. Anytime Sask plays Winnipeg, juices get flowing, man. You just got to love it.
Yeah, you do got to love it. I love the CFL schedule makers, how they've laid things out this season. Bombers and Riders faced each other in Winnipeg during the preseason. They're going to face each other now early in the season. And we're still going to get that back-to-back Labor Day Classic, Banjo Bowl, maybe even a playoff matchup between these two teams still to come in the season. Chris, I'm just going to make sure you got your correct microphone selected. We've had that issue before, but I'll get you to do that as I pull up our depth charts, because people really want to see how these teams are going to shape up for this incredibly rivalry-filled matchup. Here's the Saskatchewan Roughriders depth chart, released just frankly a few minutes ago here on Thursday ahead of Friday's game. And well, let's start with the offense. There is Trevor Harris, their starting quarterback this season. Game time decision. Chris, back on Tuesday, Trevor Harris was a partial participant. On the injury report, he's listed as a full participant. And then Wednesday, closed practice, listed as a non-participant. Head coach Craig Dickinson of the Saskatchewan Roughriders trying to do his best Mike O'Shea impression by, really throwing cold water on any information prior to game day. And well, Craig Dickinson indicated what what we kind of gleaned from it. Trevor Harris, game time decision after taking a pretty nasty shot late in the game last week against the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah, first off, he didn't practice at all. I mean, I know they tried to, they put him out and they walked him out and he walked him back into treatment. He does this. You talked about O'Shea and how we talked about it. O'Shea says the same thing about Zach. Zach doesn't need to play, doesn't need to practice right now, knows the offense. Trevor Harris is the same thing, albeit I know he's a new quarterback there. He knows what's going on. He knows what it takes to win. There's no opportunity for him to practice and risk hitting that. It's a hip injury. And, the whole thing, though, DB, why the heck were they trying to throw the ball on the last play of the game?
It was super weird, wasn't it?
It is stupid. You just basically kick a field goal. You got a 7-point lead. There's hardly any time left. You throw the ball, and he gets hurt. That's your bread and butter. You don't do anything. And hand the ball up. I know he's taking a tremendous amount of heat. There's a lot of pressure for Harris to play. There's a lot of pressure for Craig Dickinson to make sure he does play. I heard all the waxing poetic by Craig Dickinson going, it's an 18, game year. We got lots of time. But no, if I'm going into the game, I want my best guy back there. Now, nothing against Mason Fine. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league, but has he got the experience? No. Has he thrown the ball as much as Harris? No. Does he know? So it's a huge drop in talent level just because of experience, not because of quality of play. So I expect fully to see Trevor Harris behind center tomorrow. But again, Bob's your uncle. You never know what's going to happen. He's got to be able to just basically be healthy enough to lead this team.
You talk about pressure in Saskatchewan, Chris. It's not just on the team to win, as it always is in Saskatchewan. Doesn't matter what season it is. It's pressure on a quarterback. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a veteran or, Cody Fajardo last year, in the last couple of years, he really felt that pressure. Trevor Harris, well, he is a, proven veteran. And by proven, I mean, we know what we know what we get in Trevor Harris on a game in, game out basis. And, conflicting opinions, I think, league wide on what Trevor Harris brings. But he is a dangerous quarterback. He has an outstanding arm and is able to stretch the field. The Saskatchewan Roughriders will be without Darrell Walker in their receiving core, a couple other injuries, and we're definitely going to talk about Jackson Jeffcoat and the Blue Bombers defense, and in addition to a couple of their other injuries, and Celestin Haba and the rest. But for the Rough Riders, they're going up against a Blue Bombers team that is really clicking on all cylinders right now. What an outstanding performance for them in week one, with Zach Collaros throwing for nearly 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. What did you see back on Friday when you were at the stadium?
Well, I'll tell you what, 6 different receivers. He just has so much confidence. I love I read the article today. What is he, 34-5 as a starter for the Bombers? He just went past the legendary great Russ Jackson into 21st place, all-time passing in the CFL. He's a winner. And I have a problem when I hear about everybody saying one game he's like, well, he's a front runner for the MOP again. Come on, man, it's one. This is no knock on him, but you can't start doing this. But I really think, had it not been for those 3 brain farts, obviously you can't play Janarian fumble. That's okay. That's going to happen. The mix-up handoff that led to a touchdown, and obviously the block punt. Some people say he was standing too shallow. He should have been a couple more feet back, but they missed the block entirely. If you watch the replay, whoever was at right wing, he just ran outside and let the guy come scot-free. So, yeah, take away those 3 plays, and it's not even a close game. I mean, they were beating the heck out of this team. Matter of fact, third quarter, before all this, the dynamics happened, I basically was ready to go back in the car and drive home and have a couple of Coleys in the backyard. I thought it was a done deal. It was all wrapped, but then again, you got to give the team Hamilton credit. They came back, fought. They just didn't look that good, though. We talked about, and I don't want to spend too much time last week, but they talked about Bo Levi. I didn't think Bo Levi looked Bo Levi-like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my own opinion. He just seemed like he had trouble getting rid of the football. He was under tremendous pressure. You talk about, and we're going to talk about that other kid, the new kid, Haba at the end, who I thought played, I thought he played fantastic. 4 tackles, had a key sack. And if you ever watch the replay on it, as a defensive lineman, you want to make sure you watch this guy's technique, how he dips under the tackle. Very James Parker-ish. James used to do that all the time. Come around the corner, he put his hand on the ground, get underneath your block, and turn the corner. Great job by the young man. So, yeah, what I saw from the game was a great team that just gave up 3 major plays and almost ended up giving the game back to Hamilton.
Well, one of those major plays, Chris, was on special teams. And, well, for week one, fullback and special teams ace, and by ace, I mean maybe the GOAT of special teams players in Canadian football all time, Mike Miller, was a game time decision and did not play. Now he is on the 6-game injured list. I was really impressed with Jesse Briggs, okay, because Jesse Briggs came out after the game and talked about how that's his mistake. He made that mistake, and took accountability as a leader does. But do we wonder if Mike Miller not being available to play was a reason why there was a glitch on special teams? Here is Mike Miller finding himself on the 6-game injured list now in week 2. So they're going to be without him. Again, we'll talk about Jeffcoat in a second, but Mike Miller on the 6th game, joining Winston Rose, Kyrie Wilson, Jamal Parker, Teodric Hansen, and Connor Burtonshaw, another special teamer, another fullback. But losing Miller I don't think anybody should look past losing Mike Miller for a stretch of time here.
No, and I agree 100% because people don't understand that Mike Miller is the guy that calls protection. So that guy, whether it be Jesse Briggs, who's filling in for him right now, they've got to make sure the formation, the blocking scheme is up there. They count guys from inside out. You don't want to let a guy on the outside beat you. And I know Jesse Briggs was playing the up back, but I believe it was Reddy Kramda that basically led to the outside to go cover, and you can't do that. They'll tell you, we used to do drills all the time, and you'd basically about contact, hold the guy up for a couple seconds, and then get downfield and make the tackle. You cannot let anybody, I don't care how far he's out, run free. And he did it. It was a mental mistake. I guarantee it's taken care of. Miller is the king. There's no doubt about it, but he's a GOAT, as you call it. He's so smart. He recognizes all the schemes that are trying to come up, especially when you're trying to block a punt. And he's got everybody in the right spot. It's just an experience thing. And you're 100% right, DB. I love the fact that Jesse Briggs did not sugarcoat it. He did not try and come out and say, well, you know what? He said, you know what? We made a mistake. We'll get it corrected. And they will get it corrected. You know, that's one thing about this team. They don't usually make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. Huge ups to Jesse Briggs as a guy that does not speak to the media often, to just be that, as you said, not sugarcoated, speaking as plainly as possible and taking accountability. I'm sure Mike O'Shea, once digesting everything, is really proud of the way his team handles the stuff off the field. So losing the killer, as I refer to him, the killer, Mike Miller, for 6 games is going to be a hit. But Chris, we got to talk about Jackson Jeffcoat landing on the 6-game injured list. He was unavailable for the majority of training camp this season, got going late in camp, was able to play, started week 1 opposite Jackson or Willie Jefferson, the Jeffs, on the defensive line. Jackson Jeffcoat left Friday night early, I believe in the first quarter. He was just suddenly not there and did not return. Listed as a lower body injury. It was a hip injury in training camp, as he was on the week 1 injury report this week prior to being placed on the 6th game, listed as a calf injury. When you hear about a calf injury, Chris, that is a 6-week thing, like, look, that could be an ankle. That could be the lower part of the knee. That could be a soft tissue. That could be a hard tissue issue. What can you make of a calf injury that lands you on the 6th game?
Well, it's not so much the injury that concerns me as the fact that it was becoming a repetitive thing. He was hurt at the end of last year. Now he comes into camp. He's hurt again. And then he comes back to the first quarter, hurt again. This kid is he is absolutely a wonderful football player. An excellent pass rusher, comes from a great pedigree with his dad playing in the NFL. But the thing you can't control, and you know this, DB, you can't control the injuries. And injuries can derail a guy's career. This seems to be a bit of a history right now. Obviously, last year, training camp, first game, 6th game again. Nobody wants to stay on there. Now, what happens is, what do we talk about? When one door closes, another one opens. And you got that, what's his name, Haba, coming in there. And the way that kid played, I was blown away how good he was. I mean, 4 tackles and a sack, always around the ball. Didn't expect to be starting.
Huge sack late in the game to seal the win.
Right near the end of the game. I just, the kids, they're not blowing smoke up him right now. I mean, a lot of guys were asking what they thought about his performance. And, he said, O'Shea goes, well, we were really impressed with him. We like his athletic ability. Seems to pick up things really fast. But, I mean, I think this kid, if he continues on the path he's going, and it's only 1 game, so Walby, stop smoking the cigarettes. I just think he might. I don't want to be the guy that does that, because I hate when people go, guy has 1 great game, and they go, you know what? I can see him as an all-star already. Oh, it drives me crazy. I want to get the guy on the camera, smack his face a couple times. But
that said, though, he did show some good things, like you said.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm very impressed. And I think O'Shea said, ask me how he's doing after the 9th or 10th game.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So let's not go crazy. But the fact is, that's a great way for a young player to start. But here's the thing that happens now. I've seen this happen time and time again, Darrin. A guy comes in because another guy gets hurt, and the guy starts to play so well that you don't make the change back. I don't care if it's Jackson Jeffcoat or anybody. If you get another guy that's performing well and playing very well, you don't make that change. So what happens to Jeffcoat now? He's got a heck of a salary. That comes into play, boys. You know that. Let's not play games here.
It's a business.
So I hope he comes back. I hope he's healthy. I'm not putting the kiss of death on the young man. But, boy, I tell you what, you got to hate when you see a guy coming and fill for you and he starts playing that well. It's almost like
Yeah,
you
it's
got a
the
voodoo doll in the locker. You're poking pins in a voodoo doll. Don't
it's
do good, brother. Don't do good.
uh it's kind of the Wally Pip situation, right? And for you youngsters
Yep.
out there, Google Wally Pip and you'll kind of understand what we're saying. But some of you OGs out there, I know you know the Wally Pip situation. And Chris, that happens in pro football. It's just a reality. Yeah, the salary comes into it. Good point by you. um,
Yeah.
Before we pull up the Winnipeg Blue Bombers depth chart to see how things are shaping out on offense and defense, we got to give a shout out to our good friends. Chris, as always, Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street, under the streets, downtown Winnipeg, just a quick shot down the block from True North Square. You see it on your screen, or maybe you're listening on podcast and you don't see it on your screen. Head over to YouTube. That's where you want to get the full Bonfire experience. But you'll
Am I?
get that and more at Shannon's Irish Pub. Jets and Blue Bombers game day specials, home games, away games, before, during, and after. Go to Shannon's, watch the game, take it in. Food and drink specials. They got 21 beers on tap, all of your favorite cocktails, whiskeys, and scotches, and just outstanding food. They have got your pub classics, they've got your Irish pub classics, and then they have got some really creative and super tasty food choices that you wouldn't expect at an Irish pub. So it's Winnipeg's best kept secret. It's under the streets, an eclectic, unmatched atmosphere. Go check out our friends at Shannon's Irish Pub. You can find them online, ShannonsIrishPub.ca. You'll find their menu there. Shannon's is the spot, Chris. Lots of people, I'm sure, will be there on Friday night to watch the game. And I wonder, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, how their team will shape up on defense without Jackson Jeffcoat. And here's a look at their week 2 depth chart. Demario Houston with a huge game in week 1. Dietrich Nichols, of course, back at his usual boundary halfback spot. With no Darrell Walker in the Saskatchewan Roughriders starting offense, I look to Sean Bain Jr. as somebody who is probably going to get a lot of this top coverage in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense. Brandon Alexander got himself a fine this past week for a high hit on Ticats receiver Keandre Smith. Well, it's going to happen once in a while, probably half a game check. Brandon Alexander back at safety. Evan Holm and Desmond Lawrence both played really well last week in week 1. Malik Clements back again at weak side. Adam Bighill in the middle, of course. Alden Darby at strong side. But this is where the changes have been, Chris. We've been talking about Celestin Haba. You see him right there on your screen. Jake Thomas, Ricky Walker, Willie Jefferson starting. So Haba will have to step up, getting his first start. 16 days ago, Celestin Haba was signed to his first pro contract. 3 days later, he's in a preseason game, and less than, just over 2 weeks later, he's getting his first pro start. Blue Bombers first round draft pick in 2023, Anthony Bennett, will likely get a lot of rotation on the D line. Here's Miles Fox. He will be a designated American on the defensive line, signed just a few days ago, veteran of the BC Lions, to bolster this defensive line, Chris. This is my question. Is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defensive line getting a little bit thin? Are they in talks? I wonder, with Sean Lemon, maybe some other guys that are out there that can help.
No, I don't think so right now. I think that Celestin Haba, if he continues to play the way he is with the injury to Jeffcoat, that'll answer your problem. Sean Lemon's a heck of a player, but he's getting up there in age. He's also commanding a heck of a salary right now. Do you want to bring that in? I mean, and let's go back to the other guy you talked about, Miles Fox. I love that story because people say sometimes you play for another team and you wonder how they get picked up by another team. Well, if you listen to Coach O'Shea, he was watching film for somebody else. And he said, I keep watching this one guy pop up on the film. He's making plays. He's getting pressure. He goes, I like this Miles Fox guy. So when he got released, they jumped all over him. I mean, he'll fit right in here. He's a big body in the middle. He gets good push up the middle. That's what you want. They got a lot of youngsters, as you mentioned, Schmeckel and Bennett, young guys. Haba's young. Willie Jefferson, don't even go there. The guy could be 40 and still making plays. Last week, did he not have, you're talking about a lot of our things. They're making a lot of comments about, I thought Evan Holm had a hell of a game. I think Demario Houston had his breakout game as a Bomber, 2 interceptions, one on a 2-point fumble recovery. But then you look at Willie, and people are so used to Willie doing this that it doesn't blow anybody's mind anymore.
Right.
2 sacks, 2 pass knockdowns, forced fumble. I mean, he just keeps getting it done. And for lack of a better word, you get so used to it that you don't get excited about it like you should, because this guy is just a crazy best defensive lineman in the league in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think
There was
anybody
a
will
guy,
disagree with you there.
there was a guy, DB, there was a
Yep.
guy that played for the BC Lions, went down to the States with the Miami Dolphins.
Cameron Wake.
That guy was 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. That was a freak. Willie's that kind of player. Willie's seriously that kind of player. Now listen, Willie can play in the NFL, I know. But he loves being a big fish in a smaller pond. He's making decent cash. He's making a life here in Winnipeg. I just saw him and his wife, Holly, doing a great thing with Special Olympics. I think it was Make-A-Wish. Make-A-Wish.
Okay.
So God bless him for doing that. I mean, really, really getting into the community, which that's a huge thing. So, yeah. And I just want to answer one other question as I get on my rant. Patrick Adamick, you did a great job of a great point. We talked about one guy getting an opportunity and maybe taking the job away. Michael Couture, you're right. Kolinkowski came in, replaced Michael Couture, and played so well that they didn't have a rush to put Michael back in, which I think pushed a little bit. I know that Michael wanted to go play in BC. He wanted to go back, right?
That's his home province. Yep.
That's his home province, man. He's got a lot of friends and family there. But having said that, he did take over, and that spot was not a huge thing for him to rush back to.
I want to mention the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense, because they're going to have some issues for their availability as well. And I'm just going to pull it up here, Chris. They are pretty banged up when it comes to their starting defense. Here is, oh, forgive me, I don't even know the guy's name. That's how, Deontay Williams, first-year player, starting at boundary corner. Roland Milligan Jr., this guy is a baller. He was all over the field in the win over the Elks. We need to mention Saskatchewan's goal line stand inside the final 3 minutes against Edmonton last week. It won them the game. They bring it up front. They have great coverage on the back end. But being without Nick Marshall at boundary corner will hurt them. Larry Dean, Micah Teets, manning the linebacking core. Anthony Lanier was Pro Football Focus's top-rated defensive lineman for week 1. Micah Johnson, DeMarcus Christmas, Robertson on the other defensive end. They've got some depth there in Corte Moore and Cox. Chris, Saskatchewan's defense it's the real deal.
You know what? You're 100% right there. When I look at their defense, and I know that you didn't mention Moncrief, but Moncrief's been hurt for a couple games now. He didn't play the first game either.
And I'm told maybe he's sooner rather than later. He'll be back soon.
And they're not rushing him, but I believe that he's going to make a huge impact when he does come back. But I think the strength of his defense, and I'm not taking away from Larry Dean, because I think Larry Dean's a heck of a middle linebacker. I think their front four are as good as any front four. When you think about Anthony Lanier, top-rated D lineman last year, who's going to go against maybe the top-rated offensive lineman in the league last game, which was Jamarcus Hardrick.
Yeah.
So that's going to be cool. But then you got Pete Robinson, Micah Johnson, DeMarcus Christmas. They got some players on this defense, and I'm looking forward to seeing one guy, because I don't know if he got in trouble or what happened with this guy. I don't know the whole story, but Brian Cox Jr. They brought him in. He's been away from football for a couple of years, and I was going to their website during training camp, and they were raving about this kid. He's got experience. He's a big defensive end. He's going to be bringing it too. So he's got a pedigree. I believe his dad is that Cox, one of the Coxes that played for, I believe, Chicago Bears, played in the NFL.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he comes from a nice pedigree as well. Anyway, but yeah, to your point, this is a good defense. I think they will definitely miss Nick Marshall. When you're talking about putting a new guy in there, Deontel Williams, first year out of Nebraska, and he's going to have to cover, a Bailey, a Godosi, Wolotarski, a Schoen, a Dembski.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, the weapons. I mean, when you think about Zach last week throwing to 6 different receivers, 3 touchdowns in the first quarter alone. Pick your poison. Pick your poison.
Yeah, like getting a look here at the 1-6 game injured list for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The other one we should mention is Miles Brown on the defensive line. He's on the 1 game injured list as well. So a bit of a shot there for their depth on the interior. Brady Oliveira was a beast in week 1. They corrected his rushing totals. He ended up with 113 yards on the ground, well over 5 yards per carry. He was excellent. He was the only 100-yard rusher in week 1 and chipped in a couple really nice screen passes as well, really showing to be a weapon. We talked about it on Bonfire midweek last night, Chris. Do you think that Brady Oliveira is the next Canadian-born star in the CFL?
Well, he definitely has the pedigree. I mean, I like the way the kid plays. I think he talked a lot about it. That last year he got out of the gate slow. There were people saying that he's no Andrew Harris. I think he's doing a great job of taking that 33 cloak off him and just being number 20 like he can be. I think he's a heck of a football player. If he stays injury free, again, I got to throw that thing in there. That's a bug. I'm very impressed with Brady. I like the way he ran the football. Ran hard between tackles, broke tackles. The other guy that I'm really blown away with, and I know he's always good, Nick Dembski just makes play after play. I mean, that over-the-shoulder catch in the end zone, it's not an easy catch, man.
Did you hear what Zach Collaros described it as? He said Nick Dembski is like Willie Mays, making those over-the-shoulder catches, and that he had to school young Nick Dembski on who Willie Mays was. So
that's a great. I didn't hear that, so thanks for sharing that, DB. Because
that was awesome.
That was a great analogy.
So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers starting offense pretty much unchanged from last week. Carlton Agadosi, the beast, with height and length, starting at boundary receiver. Rasheed Bailey, who had a really nice touchdown in week 1, back there again. And then the slot backs, Nick Dembski and Dalton Schoen. The Bombers depth chart, they've moved this around a little bit, but really, on a snap-to-snap basis, these guys are all over the place anyway. Drew Wolotarski with a big touchdown in week 1. He starts at the Z wide receiver spot. That offensive line, Chris, we're seeing that same group once again. Scott will dress for a second straight game. He was a late addition following Mike Miller being pulled off the active roster at 4 p.m. on game day last week. But what I wonder is, okay, you got Brian Gray, Kolinkowski, Neufeld, and Hardrick from left to right. You got Dobson, who can fill in on the interior. You got Pat Neufeld and Jeff Gray, who can kick out to tackle in a pinch. Scott is probably an interior player. So you've already got 7 offensive linemen dressing for the game. And then you got right here, people can draw attention to that. That's Jake Thomas with a 65 in parentheses next to his name. Why? Yeah. Why does he have a 65 there? Well, he wears 95. That's his normal jersey number. Everybody knows that for the longest serving Winnipeg Blue Bombers player, Jake Thomas, Jake the Snake. And the 65 is the number he would switch to if the Blue Bombers need him to step in on the offensive line. So does that mean some guys are nicked up in this offensive front, Chris?
Yeah, it would be a very good indicator of that. But I think, because, you wouldn't do that unless you had some necessity there. I didn't see anybody get banged up in the game last week against the Hamilton Ticats, but you never know. It's probably one of those things, I'm just going to put it down there just in case. It's a remote possibility. Probably not, the odds are of 1 in 100 that he's going to do it. He did play one game at guard before, a couple years ago. At right guard beside Hardrick, I believe. So, he can play there. But I think it's more of just an emergency situation. Maybe they're going to go double tight. Like Zott and Dobson go double tight on the O-line. And if one of them gets banged up, maybe they want to put Thompson there as double tight. Maybe they're going to run a different type of offense this week.
Yeah.
At first time, I was going to say this too. Big shout out to Buck Pierce. His imagination and some of the wrinkles he threw in that last game, especially the Bailey touchdown, fake toss, quick slant pattern to Bailey, who takes it into the end zone. What a great call.
Yeah.
I mean, Buck Pierce, man, he's going to be moving on eventually, so guys get used to him. I think he's going to have opportunity now. He may just want to stay here. You know, a lot of times they'll make a guy assistant head coach, give him a bump and pay, and keep your continuity with your coaching staff. But I was really impressed with his game plan. The sweeps, the slot back sweeps, the end around.
You mentioned Bailey, like running. He had 2 carries. Like they don't just run Nick Dembski out of the slot to the a traditional handoff in the middle. They do it with Rasheed Bailey now too. He's that big bodied type receiver. Big legs, strong runner, and low pad level, right? He's able to make contact with the big boys up front. So just another weapon in the arsenal for Buck Pierce. I just want to, you said he might be moving on someday. Just my gut. I don't think Buck Pierce is going anywhere anytime soon.
No, that's what I'm saying. Oh, no, and I agree with you. But I'm just throwing it out there because a lot of times when you're successful, teams want to come and look at you. Look at Paul Police, look at everybody else. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful as a head coach. But I'll say this. That one play that Bailey ran was it was orchestrated 100%. You get misdirection one way, so the whole defense is flowing, and then you throw against the grain that slant pattern to Bailey, and he catches everybody running one way, and he's going the opposite way. To me, it was just a genius type of call. They just got so many things they do. You got screen passes, you run the draw, you run you can do so many different things. You get Wolotarski and ball, which I love, because Wally can make it happen, and you spread the defense out. If you're concerned with I remember teams would play. They play within the hash marks, so they played with the slot backs a lot. Well, now, when you're starting to use your Agadosi and Wolotarski out wide, that defense has to somehow move over. You get your linebackers cheating a little bit to the outside, and next thing you know, you got holes in the middle. Just these guys are just doing a great job of mixing it up and keeping the defenses off kilter.
I was a little bit surprised to see how creative the offensive play calling was so early in the season, week 1, right? So, Chris, I love how you brought up the double tight end, because think about what we saw from the Saskatchewan Roughriders last week. Yeah. There was less than, I think it was 76 yards the Edmonton Elks gained in the second half. If you take away the 102-yard deep ball touchdown from Taylor Cornelius to Geno Lewis in the first quarter, Edmonton's offense couldn't do a thing. They couldn't do a thing. Less than 100 yards in the second half, 3 chances on the goal line, couldn't punch it in to win the game. Win the game. They couldn't do it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sold. I don't want to get into Edmonton, but I'm not really sold on Cornelius yet.
All I'm saying is Saskatchewan's defense came to play, and you mentioned the double tight end. Maybe they even want to go like a super jumbo package where you take another receiver off, you bring Jake Thomas in to push the pile or block.
To widen it. I mean, obviously we got to talk about the fact that Tyrell Pigram couldn't get it in from the 1-yard line.
We saw a little Drew Brown in the short yardage, didn't we?
So I think that might happen. I think you got to go to a bigger body. But if you go, what I hate to see, double tight end, where you got 3 guys to one side now, you stretch that defense out. And then what happens is you release Jake Thomas. He goes in, he blocks a little bit, runs in the end zone, gets a touchdown. Fat boy gets a touchdown. Everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Drinks all around.
Drinks all around indeed. Great to see everybody in the live chat, by the way. I forget who that was earlier. They said, sorry I'm late. Bruise on me next time. We'll hold you to that. We'll see you at Shannon's Irish Pub for the next road game. Got a comment here from the Barflies. Is Brendan O'Leary Orange close to starting / ratio breaker? Well, here's the deal, Barflies. As far as the Blue Bombers starting offense is concerned, I don't see him taking Well, he ain't taking Dalton Schoen's spot. He ain't taking Kenny Lawler's spot when Kenny is back. I don't see him taking Carlton Agadosi's spot either. I think the ceiling is just way too high on Agadosi to risk taking him out. Rasheed Bailey, so versatile. I know they ran running plays with Brendan O'Leary Orange, some jet sweeps and things like that in the preseason, but I think that's if some sort of injury or availability issue comes about that they would bring in Brendan O'Leary Orange. He is a young guy. Brendan O'Leary Orange, Chris, you love talking about pedigree of guys. This guy's dad played a long time in pro football as a running back, including time with the Toronto Argonauts. He is legit when it comes to athleticism and talent on the field, good hands, and a Canadian. So somebody I think whose future is bright, but is he close to starting? Probably not at this time. But again, depth, as we're seeing already on the Blue Bombers defense, they've got depth on offense, and it's a good thing that they do.
Yeah, he'll start out a necessity if somebody gets banged up. That's the only type right now. And then they may put him in when the weather gets hot. It's always hot lately here. Saskatchewan's going to be loud. You might want to put him in there, just give a guy a break. That'd be probably the only time. But starting is a whole different animal. Again, you're going into a very angry house. It's a bee's nest over there. You know as well as I do that when you play in Saskatchewan, the fans are crazy. It's loud as loud can be. Communication is going to be a huge thing. And I know that usually the crowd, or the 13th man, as they like to call it over in Saskatchewan, can usually lead to a couple, false starts or offsides, just because you're trying to communicate that down the line. Going to hand signals, they'll go with different things to get, to try first sound, you know what I mean? But no, it's going to be a great test for the Bombers. I mean, obviously, Saskatchewan, as you mentioned, I think their defense is very, very good. I think Darrell Walker is going to be a miss for them, but you know what? He's kind of gone downhill in the last couple of years. He's fought injuries.
He seemed completely checked out in Edmonton the last 2
I
years.
hated Edmonton. There's no doubt. Because if you watch him, and he did an interview, he said going to Saskatchewan was like a breath of fresh air.
I bet.
You can read into that however you want. But they've got Tavin Jones, 6'2" receiver in there. They got Mario Alford, who returns. He can get after it too. Samuel Emelis, Jake Winnick, we know about. Brescison's playing in a slot back position.
Yeah, Mitch Picton got the start last week. Yeah. But they're gonna move Brescison in there, the veteran Canadian receiver.
Brescison's a heck of a ball player.
Yeah.
And this other kid that you're going right after there on Bain, Sean Bain. That guy's got wicked speed. Remember what he did in Calgary last year?
Mm-hmm.
He's a game breaker. So I mean, it depends. And then they got the kicker, another Aussie, Adam Korsak, 50-something yards average. He's pounding the heck out of the pig. I mean, put it right on the roaster because it's getting roasted. But I mean, I love the way he kicks the football. So I mean, they've got things. Brett Lother is a great field goal kicker.
Has struggled early.
Yeah, you struggle, but I just think that if their offense can establish something like the running game, because we haven't even talked about the running game, and you know as well as I do that Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson are pretty good.
Yeah.
And they got the newcomer, Thompson Bertrand Hutton. They've got some speed back there and some guys who can break tackles. So the Bombers are going to have their work cut out. Listen, anytime you go into enemy territory, it's not a given. These two teams match up always. It's tight. Yes, Zach is 7-0. 7-0 versus Saskatchewan. Crazy when you think about it. I looked at his stats the other day, but I was blown away by this. He's got, against Saskatchewan, in 7 games, he's averaging 72% pass completion, 15 touchdowns, and only 4 INTs.
That's kind of in line with his numbers through the last couple of years, right?
I mean, when you're 7-0, the thing about that is, I mean, some players my favorite place was to play when I played Calgary. I love playing in Calgary. I love their field. So some guys just like to play in certain positions, certain locations. I would think that Zach loves playing in Saskatchewan. And remember this, he did have a short stint in Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
Very short indeed. But, boy, we are the recipients of getting what I consider one of the best football players that I've seen in a long time in Zach. I love the article. I love what you said. You're making some analogy to Walt Tarski, call him Michelangelo. The guys love him. And you don't hear a coach, especially O'Shea. O'Shea doesn't really wax poetic on anybody. But he was talking about how he just oozes confidence.
Yeah,
The players
exudes
around
winning, I think was the
use
words
winning.
he.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
and
I
the
mean,
confidence too he mentioned. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just think that this is Zach's team. He is the straw that stirs the drink. But they have so much talent. I mean, this is a team that has so much talent. I
So,
think about.
well, hey, Chris, that leads to the question: what is the
Well,
Winnipeg Blue Bombers' weakness?
you know what? He used to be field goal kicker, but not anymore.
No,
I mean,
Serge was
Castillo,
good, hey?
4 for 4, man. The guy pounds the heck out of that ball.
Got
He's
that
a good
50
football
yarder.
player. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
See,
I don't
Serge is
know.
calling you right now. How come you haven't talked about me yet, Bluto?
Well, we are right now, buddy. We love you, Sergio. Listen, I think you look at that team. They love Sheehan, and they said they're not worried about this block punt.
Hey,
Janarian,
he's
you
a
got
rookie, right? If he wasn't standing far enough back or that sort of thing, or wasn't aware of where the pressure was
it's
coming,
correct.
he's
It's
going to
easy
win.
enough. All you say is, hey, take 2 steps back, idiot. You Aussie boy, take 2 steps back, you daft bugger. But anyway, I love you English.
My favorite about Jamison Sheehan is he said to me, "You can call me Jam." Love that. Jam Sheehan, the punter. He can get you out of a jam.
Well, I mean, O'Shea just said, I'm not worried about him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not either. And I look at around, so I'm looking around, I'm going, okay, pick a week. Where would I go after? I'm thinking, well, how do I deal with this offense? I think Jason Chivers is going, The only way I would do it, bud, I'm blitzing the hell out of him. I gotta blitz him. If you let Zach get comfy, he's gonna pick you apart. So they have to blitz him. They have to disguise their coverage. Cannot give Zach a pregame or a pre-snap read. It's just you just can't.
So when I pose the question, what is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' weakness? There really isn't one, because it's definitely not leadership or mentality or coaching or the general manager's office. It's definitely not talent on the field or play calling on either side of the football. If I really had to nitpick, Chris, I would say the importance of the run game is elevated for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because if they are suddenly no longer running the football, I think that pressure coming on a older offensive line will eventually lead to some cracks forming in the foundation. I am nitpicking, okay? I think Brady Oliveira and being a consistently strong run team, establishing it, using it, and making sure it's there, that is going to keep Zach Collaros upright and healthy and protected, as much as having the best left tackle or the best right tackle or the best interior guys or the best scheming or play calling or pass protection from the running back in the pass game or play action. I think the run game and having that strong run game from week 1 through the playoffs is as important as anything, because this O-line is old. Let's just call it what it is. Now, this is why I posed it to you. I know you played 17 years in this league?
16.
Okay, you played 16. You probably could have played 17.
Maybe. I was 40 when I left. 40 years old.
And if you were 40 when you left and still playing at a high level, Chris, what would you have said to some dummy like me saying, well, this is an aging O-line? If I'm nitpicking, maybe that could be an issue.
You know what? I will say this. If age was a factor, and I would look at it more if they're starting to get injured. That was my number one thing. If you start to get injured, you're not, you're obviously your recovery comes late. But they got such great trainers. They got great therapy. You've got, we all had the cold tub and the hot tub and all that crap. But I mean, I think that as long as they stay healthy, I
Well,
mean,
and that's why I'm wondering why you've got your 5 starters, you have
could be.
got 2 backups, and people need to understand this is the reality. The Blue Bombers have generally dressed 6 offensive linemen for every game for years. So now they're dressing 7, and they're listing Jake Thomas, his other number of 65 here, as somebody that could step in on the offensive line in a pinch. Plus, the D line is already thin. So if we're reading between the lines, I wonder if somebody on this Blue Bombers offensive front is maybe a little bit nicked up.
That's a good point. And you know what? I mean, you were at practice. I know they had a closed practice on Wednesday. Today is basically day before, so you're not going to see anything today. Well, they're travel day. It's travel day today anyway, so yeah, you're not going to see anything. So
Yeah,
yeah, you very well could be onto something there,
I'm
and
just
we'll have to watch
speculating.
it.
Yep.
No, but you know what? It's a hell of a speculation because the game time will tell you, right? I mean, obviously, I don't know what the weather is going to be like in Saskatchewan, but I can only imagine it's going to be hot again and hot, noisy.
Very noisy.
Very hard place to win.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan has just got something about them. It's always tough to win a game there. So they protect their park much like we protect our park. So yeah, I'm excited to watch this game. I'll be watching definitely tomorrow. And
Boy,
for
you're
those of you
popular today.
for those that's we just installed a Ring doorbell. So
Oh, is
it's
that what that is? I thought that was your cell phone.
no, it's a Ring doorbell. So whenever
Okay.
somebody comes
You get a
by,
pass then. I was gonna fine you. I was gonna,
no,
send you a letter.
you have to find me to find me
Yeah,
because you never
that
can
is
find me.
true. That is true. You are tough to find. I don't want to play
Oh
hide and
yeah,
seek against Chris
man.
Walby.
Come on, man. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great game. I
Well,
saw
hey,
something. Here's a
that leads
comment.
right into our keys to the game. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers were practicing with the pumped in artificial crowd noise in anticipation of a raucous Mosaic Stadium on Friday night. Chris, let's do your keys to the game and what's critical for the Blue Bombers to accomplish to capture a win in week 2.
Offensively, I think you got to continue to do what Zach's doing, which is spreading that football around. Make sure you protect the football. They're doing a great job of that. And you hit on one of the keys, I think, and that is you got to still run the football. Don't be one dimensional. On defense, hey, hurry Harris. He's not 100%. Get in his face, knock him down a few times, let him do the cloud count where he's counting clouds. And I think you got a great shot there. And on defense, know your assignments, whether it be punt, punt player or punt team or punt chase or whatever you call punt cover. I can't believe I forgot how to say that. That's some of the special teams I played. Jesus. You got to know your spot. And listen, they got a hell of a returner. You know this as well as I do.
Yeah.
Mario Alford could take it to the house. So yeah, let's get Janari and Grant involved, but let's also make sure we keep Mario Alford in tune. And those are my keys, brother.
Yeah, I love it. I'll throw in what Mike O'Shea mentioned yesterday, being Wednesday, about who they might face at quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And he said, we're going to play our defense. It doesn't matter if it's Trevor Harris. It doesn't matter if it's Mason Fine. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Montana back there. That's not what the head coach said. That's my addition to it. It doesn't matter who's quarterbacking. They're going to play their defense. We know what Saskatchewan has. They don't have Darrell Walker, but they have some other options. They have a very talented backfield on offense with Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson. Those guys are small, agile, slippery, strong running tailbacks. So I'm expecting a big dose of that, and no doubt Winnipeg's defense will be expecting it as well. It's going to be a great game on Friday night in a early season rivalry battle between the Blue Bombers and Roughriders. Chris, before we go, we have to, as always, give a shout out to our good friends at Shannon's. I know you love it there.
Yeah. We have to get down there. We will definitely have to do something there.
Little bonfire party.
Whether we do a broadcast from there one time, I think it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, we might do something, buddy.
Yeah. Well, hey, Great to see everybody watching live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. We see you. Thanks for joining the live chat. If you're watching the replay, hop into the comments. We read them all. Even if you got some words for Chris Walby. Chris, how often do I send you all the messages, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And I'm so happy that the 99.9 of them are happy. And the only ones that are bad are my ex-wives.
That's right. Yeah. Which one? I don't know, but
I'm just kidding. I love them all.
No doubt, Chris. No question about that. You got to love them all. So great to see everybody. As I said, thanks again. How about this? John Chan joining us from London, flying to Regina tomorrow for Bombers Riders. Go Bombers. So John, maybe he's on a PJ. Maybe he's on the private jet getting direct from London Heathrow to Regina.
Travel safe, man, and enjoy the game because it's going to be a great game. I mean, I'll tell you what, everybody thinks Regina is a great place to watch football. They really do.
Yeah, it is. Listen to Larry in the live chat, smash that like button, and help keep the bonfire blazing here. Great to see everybody. Game day after dark. Myself, Zach Schnitzer, maybe a special guest. It'll be a late one, but it'll be a great one. Join us on Game Day After Dark on the post game here on Bonfire Sports. Chris, we'll see you next week. Enjoy the game, my friend. Have a great one and have a great weekend.
You too as well, DB. It's going to be a nice weekend. Get out there and enjoy the weather, man. Don't be stuck inside. That's why it's so nice to go to the outdoor stadiums to watch a game. Amen. It's a beautiful experience. So go Bombers. DB, you be a good boy. Shannons, we'll be down there one time. Don't you worry. And the rest of you guys, if you're going to drink, don't drive. All right, boys.